Hi guys, welcome back. We are working today on a 2006 Golf Mk5 Golf GT with busted windscreen wipers. So I'm going to pop open the bonnet and let's see what's going on. Alrighty, so the windscreen wiper mechanism on Mk5 is on that side, at least on this model it is. So the first thing I'm going to need to do is pull out these rubber bonds and the rubber strip in front of it. Because we need to get under here, and that is going to need to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wipers off, which involves popping some little plastic end caps off here and unbolting them. I'm going to lift this out. This kind of rests in a, should we say, like a groove at the bottom of the windscreen. So prise that out gently. It's already cracked, so I will fix this as part of the repair and glue that on the reverse side so you can't see any unsightly superglue. And see what's going on with the actuator. So you can see here there's a little slot at the back to just stick a small screwdriver in and gently prise those out. I'll just do that now because the last thing I want is these to go pinging off somewhere into the engine bay, so just being really super careful and prise that out. Put that in a very safe place, and then there's just a fairly standard nut underneath that. Great piece of design this. The slot to put your screwdriver in is completely inaccessible, so instead I'm going to have to use a picker, try and wheedle that in around the side. Okay, now it helps to have an extra long extension bar to get at these without having to hit the bonnet or anything like that. And what I'm going to have to be careful with is the fact that I know that this wiper, the driver's side wiper, right hand side of the vehicle, is broken. It's actually come loose, so I'm going to have to hold on to the wiper and secure that as I'm twisting it loose. So a little bit of a tricky thing to do, but once it's loose, I should be able to just wind it off by hand. And the same on the other side. Now this side I'm expecting to be okay. There it is. Okay. So predictably enough, what's happened is that the thing that holds the wiper on the end of these is aluminium pressed into a steel sleeve. I bet you the aluminium piece is sheared off. Now I'm expecting this next bit to be a bit of a pig on account of the fact that this particular wiper, the mechanism I need to free it from is broken, so I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do this without some kind of puller. For the penetrating oil, I can't use the usual flame because it's all plastic around there, and whilst some might say that burning it would be an appropriate thing to do at this point, it's still a savage little car, so worth preserving. Okay, now there is no way I'd be able to get those wiper arms off there without one of these. Definitely worth getting your hands on. You will need it eventually. It's just a wiper arm removal tool. Just slides in under the end of the arm and you just wind it off against the either the taper spigot or the splined taper, whichever it is. It's a splined taper in this Golf. So yeah, definitely worth having. 15, 16 quid, something like that in Halford. You find them on eBay, on Amazon, dead easy to get hold of. Anyway, I'll show you how this works. That'll do it. You can see what the problem is. So those splines there just kind of get stuck onto the splines on the inside of this. They're necessary so that it turns. It doesn't just grind out and not turn the wiper. So yeah, there you go. They always stick. Definitely worth getting that little tool. Right, so on with the job. So the wipers are off, which means that we can now remove this plastic. As I mentioned, there's kind of this ridge here that sticks into the groove at the bottom of the screen. Must have tooltip. Get yourself a set of those hex keys, Torx bits on the other end, and 12 spline bits or 3 square up the middle. You will need pretty much all of these if you're working on a VW from time to time. What have we got here? I think these are 30s. Yes, they are. These are Torx T30s. So there are just 2 of them. I'll show you the replacement unit in a sec. I'll just get these out. Right, so let's just disconnect the electronics. So you just kind of pull this piece back and it pops off. Okay, so absolute nightmare of a component to get in and out if you don't know how. So this has to come out first. Right, so I've just spent 5 minutes there wiggling it around so I can get it in a position where this left hand in the vehicle wiper comes out first. And the rest of it, I'm going to have to just kind of work it around here. Put the end out. You should be able, and it's got to come up and over the screen. You should be able to bring it out. So that's the key. That piece there is under the screen, right, and it has to come up, out and over the screen, and then the other end will come out. So right, let's get this on the bench and have a look and see what we're dealing with. I mean, what we're dealing with straight away is that the end of it has snapped off and it's been repaired temporarily previously. But it's quite ingenious actually. What they've done is basically cut a Jubilee clip in half, strapped that over the end, and just bolted it on. So fair play. I mean, that's saved someone about 300 odd quid at the time, but anyway, this is getting replaced with a brand new unit, and it could well be the last brand new unit in the world. Had to get it from the dealership and it has cost a clean fortune, but next job is we need to move the motor from this frame onto the other one. As I say, let's get it on the bench, see what we're dealing with. Okay, a hastily improvised bench, but it'll do. So you can see we've got the motor, clamps onto the frame, we've got the frame that attaches onto the motor. So that goes through there, straightforward enough. And I've got 3 Torx bolts here I need to remove in order to get that onto here. Helpfully, there are actually some grooves here and here that locate around those mounting points, so you can't get this wrong, right? This is one of the easier things to replace, but I am just going to have to unbolt this motor. It's not a bad idea, by the way, to have a spare motor kicking around. You'll pick them up off eBay for probably 20 quid. Useful thing to have in a scrape. Anyway, 1 nut, 3 Torx bits, flip it over, and then we're ready to reinstall. Unsurprisingly, like pretty much just about everything else on this vehicle, the nut itself is a 13. I don't know why they love 13s so much, but they very often are. Got it. Keep that safe, you don't get a spare one of them. There we go. Right, so with that plate removed, notice the peg that relocates. Notice how this comes off. So there's a groove on one side for the spindle, 2 grooves on the other for those legs. This can go in the bin. Okay, just turn that to see if it works, which it does. So as that's turning, down a bit, as that's turning, the frame basically is moving from side to side. Quite an elegant mechanism, really. Anyway, let's get this clamped back up. Okay, it's a bit of a pain, this bit. Before we connect the arm onto the wiper motor, if you've taken the motor off, if you've changed the position of any of these bits, you've got to make sure that this is calibrated properly. Otherwise it's basically just going to hit the stops, it won't work, it won't turn all the way, you'll have an intermittent problem in terms of one wiper will work full sweep, the other one won't. So really important to get this right. So I'm going to put this back in the engine bay, close the bonnet and run it, basically just forwards and backwards quite happily. Switch the wiper off, turn the engine off, and then it'll be in the most sort of the rightmost extreme, if you will. So it's going to be operating between roughly 10 and roughly sort of just after 2, let's say 2:30. So 10 to 2. It shouldn't actually touch the stops on either side. So we're going to put it in, switch it on, let it run for a bit, switch the wipers off. That'll end up in the park position. And then we can position this such that it is at the rightmost extreme of movement. The one little wrinkle that makes this a lot easier is if you just push the catch over. I'm going to push this down. Make sure it's properly pushed over. The car now thinks the bonnet's closed, because ordinarily this little gadget is locked in that hole there when this is closed over. So the sensor attached to the catch is tricked into thinking that the bonnet's closed. There you go. If you've got one takeaway, that should be it. If you want a second takeaway, it's make absolutely for damn certain that the arm is attached to the wiper in the right position, otherwise nothing will work. Now you can see here the motor's fine, and it's operating in that kind of 10 to 230 kind of range. What we've got to make sure is that when we reconnect this, that it doesn't foul either of these stops. So if I just turn this off, that's the rest position. So we need it kind of as far over that way as it's going to go in that position, without snagging on that, and then it'll have full sweep basically between the stops there and there. So now we should be able to switch it on. And we're turning through the whole range of movement. Okay, let's reinstall. Okay, the reinstall. This spigot goes into that hole there. Okay, so it's kind of up here. be a bit tricky finding the hole for that little spigot to go into. Again, don't forget the little wrinkle with the mirror. Before I tighten these down properly, I'm going to make sure everything works one last time. There we go, success. There is one other thing I just want to show you here, which is that there's a service mode on VW windscreen wipers. Okay, I haven't got the arms on, but I can show you what's going on. So notice the position of the actuator there, the actual linkage is right over to that side. So that's the wipers in the downmost position. So we're going to come into the cabin, turn the power on, and then off again, and then just press that down. And if you listen carefully, if you heard that, but basically what it's just done is swept the wiper arm over to the other extreme of movement. So it was there, it's now there, with the linkage in that position fully outermost, so that's the maximum extreme of movement. Then the driver's wiper is going to be parallel with the edge of your screen. Really useful little wrinkle that. You can see these don't alter hell. Never mind that now, I'll fix that another time. For now, the other thing I would say that's really important to remember is that your other wiper on a VW is going to be sitting at a jaunty angle. Something like that. Okay, I'll see if I can find a picture and just slap it up here now to show you wipers in that service position, so you've got a reference point. But that's a really useful place to start with, putting the wipers back on the car rather than trying to find marks on the screen. Then all you have to do to switch the service mode off is just turn the ignition on and use the windscreen wipers normally, and they'll just reset back to the normal position. There you go. So that's it for today, guys. Hope that's been helpful. Do not forget the wrinkle about your bonnet catch, just pushing that over. That makes life a hell of a lot easier with this particular job, because you're not opening and closing the bonnet and you can see what's going on and adjust it in real time. Other than that, we're just talking about 2 Torx bits, T30s, and 3 T30s to hold the motor in place through that bracket, and of course the 113mm nut on the end of the arm of the motor itself. So there you go. Hope that's been helpful. Take it easy. I'll see you next time. Cheers.